It seems that Doctor Who has been around forever. With the show reaching its 60th anniversary at the end of last year, it might as well have been, to be honest. The last time that I discussed Doctor Who was around a year ago, when I reviewed the 1996 Doctor Who movie, which doesn't have the best reputation. With so many issues during its production, the resulting product ended up being a confusing, albeit very campy movie, with one of the most heavily disputed revelations surrounding the Doctor as a character. But, since I've now discussed one of the more controversial pieces of Doctor Who media, I figured that it was about time that I discussed one of the most well-known serials that is looked back on more fondly in general, from what I've seen. It also just so happens to be one of my favourite serials starring my favourite incarnation of the Doctor. Cliché, I know, please forgive me. Genesis of the Daleks was first broadcast on Saturday the 8th of March 1975, and originally concluded on Saturday the 12th of April 1975, 5 weeks later. This was a serial starring the Fourth Doctor, played by Tom Baker, and his companions on this adventure were Sarah Jane Smith and Harry Sullivan, portrayed by Elizabeth Sladen and Ian Marter respectively. The story saw that the Doctor and his friends were sent on a mission by the Time Lords to intercept the creation of the Daleks, hence the serial's title. For all my reboot-only viewers, the Time Lords were much more directly involved with the classic series, as the Time War hadn't occurred yet. Although, Doctor Who has a reputation of being very campy at times, and is known for its sillier moments.
No, it's quite all right, Jamie. The planet is quite safe. There's just going to be a localized volcanic eruption. It'll only affect the island.
Maybe so, but we happen to be on the island.
Oh my word!
Genesis of the Daleks is one of the show's more serious stories in terms of tone, tackling issues such as genocide and the moral implications of time travel. I think that this is partially what made it so impactful at the time of its release. With all that being said, let's get into my review. Roll the intro editing, Soapy.
Polos is life, 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 sleep all night and then Polos is life.
The Doctor and his friends Harry Sullivan and Sarah Jane Smith are trying to travel by transmat beam. But with the Doctor being somewhat indebted to the Time Lords for breaking their laws, they decide to intercept their journey and force him to do their dirty work. Although he is initially reluctant, he is able to be persuaded easily.
We ask you to do something for us.
I won't do it. Whatever it is, I refuse.
Daleks.
Daleks. Tell me more.
At some point in the future, the Daleks become the dominant species in the universe, and the Doctor's task is to either intercept their creation somehow, or gather information about their creation so that the Time Lords can use it against them when the time comes. After revealing that they are actually on the Daleks' homeworld, Skaro, the Time Lord gives the Doctor a time ring so that the group are able to return to the TARDIS once they have completed their mission. It's not really explained how this will work, but you know, I don't think that really spoils the magic of the episode.
Be careful not to lose it. That time ring is your lifeline.
I'm sure that this won't come up as an issue at all. Skaro is depicted as a barren wasteland, and a war that has seemingly gone on forever between the Kaleds and the Thals has made the planet desolate and hostile. Before it's even revealed that this is Skaro, the environment doesn't exactly look friendly, and the Doctor's confusion definitely doesn't help with the atmosphere. The group come across a dead soldier whose armour and weaponry do not match in terms of when they were made. This is a very simple yet poignant way of demonstrating how desperate the battle has gotten between the Thals and the Kaleds, as well as emphasising the horrors of war. Sarah Jane becomes separated from the Doctor and Harry after they are caught in the middle of chemical warfare, but she is rescued by a group of mutos, mutated Thals and Kaleds that have been banished from both populations. Despite the mutos' kindness, the group is arrested by Thals and are forced to load radioactive material onto a missile. Similarly, the Doctor and Harry are arrested by the Kaleds, and are taken to see their scientific bunker for interrogation. Unfortunately, this means that the time ring is also confiscated. Who could have seen this coming? The pair are taken to see the lead scientist, Davros, who reveals a Mark III travel machine, also known as a Dalek, to them, and the Doctor remains very unimpressed.
Very primitive, but undeniably a Dalek.
You're mistaken. It's a Mark III travel machine.
You say so.
One of the scientists that works under Davros, Ronson, explains that they have been told that Skaro is the only planet capable of sustaining life in the universe, but when the Doctor's knowledge seems to threaten this idea, Ronson becomes intrigued and wants to learn more, despite Davros wanting to use the pair in an experiment. Ronson protests at the idea of the Doctor and Harry being killed for their non-conformity for the sake of an experiment, and despite Davros assuring Ronson that he will be punished for his interference, he allows him to resume questioning them until dawn. This scene establishes Davros's disregard for life, especially if they are what he considers to be inferior, even if he doesn't actually know anything about the people he is referring to. I mean, he literally just met them. Later, the Doctor and Harry are visited by Ronson in their cell, and he explains that he and a couple of others on the team have been worrying that Davros's experiments have become immoral. He elaborates that while the scientific team was originally formed to create a war-ending weapon, they changed direction to start looking into genetic modification with the hopes of ensuring the Khaled's survival. The final result of said experiments being the mutated Khaleds, or Daleks. I think part of what makes the scene so effective here is the use of less is more. The Doctor and Harry's disconcerted eyes and the monster-like growls in the background tells you all that you need to know. The audience can use their imaginations. Meanwhile, Sarah Jane and the Mutos try to escape the Thal's grasp, and have to climb some scaffolding in order to do so. In quite a tragic scene, the Thal soldiers shoot them down one by one, and Sarah Jane falls down the scaffolding, but Sarah Jane's friend, Severin, is able to rescue her. They reach the top, but are recaptured before they can reach the exit. Davros finds out that Ronson has been plotting a mutiny with the other team members, so gathers 20 more Daleks and betrays the Khaleds by giving the Thals a chemical formula that can weaken the Khaled's dome shield, rendering it vulnerable to the Thal attack. It really shows how proud Davros is on top of everything else, given how willing he is to wipe out his own people because they don't agree with his ideas. The Doctor and Harry sneak into the Thal base in an attempt to rescue Sarah Jane, and the Doctor turns into Spock for a moment while doing so.
Excuse me. Can you help me? I'm a spy.
Despite the rescue attempt being somewhat successful, as the Doctor's friends are able to escape into the Khaled city, the Doctor is apprehended by the Thals, and the Khaled dome is destroyed, killing all except those residing in the bunker. When you thought that he couldn't get any more evil, Davros knowingly falsely accuses Ronson of being the traitor, and has him executed by the Daleks on the spot. To be honest, while the storyline is quite chilling and frustratingly unjust, all of the extermination scenes are very overacted, which is a running theme in classic Who, to be fair. Believing his friends to be dead, the Doctor goes full emo while trying to clarify the situation to one of his captors, who, despite releasing the Doctor, ends up saying something quite unnerving when you think about how it applies to the real world.
The Khaled government was on the point of stopping Davros' experiments, and rather than let that happen, he helped you to destroy his own race.
You never convinced my people of that. Davros is a hero.
The Doctor quickly discovers that his friends actually survived the nuclear missile, and Davros sends his Daleks to begin attacking the Thals. Upon reaching the bunker, the Doctor tells the surviving Thals and Mutos to find a way to destroy the bunker, while he and his friends sneak inside in order to recover the time ring from the Khaled scientists. This plan also goes wrong, as the Doctor is once again seized by Davros, and he very much does not want to play nice. It seems that the Doctor just can't win today.
Why not make them a force for good throughout the universe?
I could do it.
Then do it. Be remembered for that.
Davros coerces the Doctor into telling him everything that he knows about the Daleks' future, using a lie detector and the threat of harming his friends if he is caught lying. The idea being that Davros can program the Daleks to avoid any future mistakes so that they cannot lose. However, Since there was a growing dislike of Davros among his scientific team anyway, they free the Doctor and his friends by holding a vote on the Dalek experiments, buying him enough time to rig the Dalek incubation room with explosives, which would kill the Daleks inside. The Doctor is attacked by a mutated Khaled, but is able to break free, something that is used in later episodes as well. We get to the most famous part of the episode, as the Doctor hesitates to touch the explosives' wires together, questioning the morality of wiping out the entire Dalek species, regardless of how evil they become.
Do I have the right? Simply touch one wire against the other, and it's it. The Daleks cease to exist.
Ultimately, he decides that he cannot bring himself to do it. Davros agrees to the vote, allowing the Doctor to take back the time ring and destroy the recordings Davros made of him, while the Thals and Mutos have prepared explosives to destroy the bunker. Davros suddenly reveals that his agreeing to the vote was all a lie, and that it also gave his patrolling Daleks enough time to return to the bunker. The Doctor returns to the bunker to set off the Thals explosives, but a Dalek inadvertently completes the circuit and sets it off itself, just as the Doctor escapes. Davros and the Daleks are trapped inside the bunker, and Davros realizes the Daleks have gained a will of their own when they refuse to take orders from him, a non-Dalek. They kill the remaining scientists, and when he finally attempts to stop the production line, he is exterminated by his own creations. Oh well, he'll be back for Destiny of the Daleks 4 years after this. While the Doctor speculates that he has only set the Daleks back for a millennium at most, he considers his mission complete, as good will always arise to challenge the Daleks despite their evil. He, Sarah Jane, and Harry say farewell to the other survivors and use the time ring to return home. I mean, what an episode! Terry Nation, the writer of the episode, also wrote The Daleks, the first episode featuring those villains, and he clearly took care while writing the episode, even though he was technically retconning or revising his own story. The content of the episode is quite heavy for a show known for being about running through corridors from bins on wheels, as it tackles subjects like genocide and consequences of time travel, something that the reboot definitely doesn't shy away from. It's pretty obvious what this story is an allegory for, it's not subtle at all. I also like how the episode doesn't sugarcoat the subject matter or talk down to the audience at all. For example, the Khaleds are dead, they're not coming back, there's nothing left, and the Thals also suffer a similar fate at the hands of the same person. In Series 1, Episode 6 of Doctor Who Confidential, Clayton Hickman, editor of Doctor Who magazine, made a really good point about what makes the Daleks scary as villains.
There's no face, there's nothing to relate to. It's got an eye and it's got a gun, and it can chase you. And you can't reason with it, you can't talk to it and say, oh, come on, let's just have a drink and not worry about this. They have completely different values.
Not showing what the mutant looks like inside the case was also a good choice for the same reason. It was just not necessary. I think building them up from being under their creator's control to gaining their own free will was a really effective way of displaying this throughout the serial. I recommend the episode to anyone who is interested in the making of Doctor Who and the history of the Daleks. It's full of interviews from cast members, both old and new, as well as crew members that work on the show. I would put more in, but you know, copyright on YouTube. But bringing Davros back as a recurring villain spoils the gravity of the episode's ironic ending, as Davros wanted to make the ultimate killing machine, the ultimate soldier, yet he made them so good at their purpose that they led to his own downfall. The scene where the Daleks turn on Davros is really well written, as it also demonstrates that despite all the evil that he has committed in this episode alone, and how he's so careless that he can throw away the lives of so many people as if they were nothing, he still has some humanity to him.
Those men are scientists, they can help you. Let them live. Have pity! Pity! I have no understanding of the word.
The performances in this episode were good overall, if not for the cheesy and overacted extermination scenes, but I think that I can forgive that given the fact that it's low-budget mid-20th century sci-fi. In a similar vein, a lot of the cliffhangers are very lackluster and are like, yeah, okay, I know they'll be fine. Another thing I like about the episode is that there is no good or bad side when it comes to the Thals and Khaleds. It's a good reflection of the ugly side of humanity, and really sets the Doctor apart from most people in this story, as he chooses not to be like them.
But if I kill, wipe out a whole intelligent life form, then I become like them. I'd be no better than the Daleks.
I think the one thing about this episode that makes it less accessible to audiences, especially nowadays, is its length. It's a long serial, even for Doctor Who, which I think does it justice given the story, but a couple of scenes do drag on, and the running around back and forth does get a bit exhausting in parts if you're watching each episode back to back. I think that overall though, it's a pretty solid serial and definitely deserves a spot on the list of greatest Who episodes. It's certainly my favourite serial. Well, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.
The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time. Cause Polos is life, 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 Polos is life. Sleep all night.